India has a mindset where it punches below its weight. We have to punch not above our weight. We have to punch not below our weight. We have to increase our weight and punch proportionally.
ये हमारा सिद्धांत है, हम घर में घुस के मारेंगे।
You know, victims of terrorism do not sit together with perpetrators of terrorism to discuss terrorism.
नमस्कार, जय हिंद, जय भारत एंड वेलकम टू डेफ टॉक्स। हमारे साथ हैं बहुत टाइम के बाद डॉक्टर गीता कोचहर, जो हमको बताएंगी नेपाल के बारे में अब आगे क्या होगा। पहले तो मैम, वेलकम टू द शो।
Namaskar, Jai Hind to you, all your viewers, and always a pleasure to be on your show.
थैंक यू मैम। मैम, इट्स ऑलवेज अ प्लेजर टू एक्चुअली हैव यू। एंड मेरे को बस ये बताना है मैम, आपको पहले सिंपल इसमें व्हाट डू यू सी, कल क्या हुआ?
कल क्या हुआ नेपाल में? In simple terms, I would say things went out of control. You know, probably this was not the intention. This was not the target. This was not what the Gen Z per se wanted, and you know, all kinds of other opportunist forces entered into it and took advantage of what the situation was. Opportunist individuals also took advantage of the situation that went out of it control, and very specifically it is also the outcome of how on the first day the government and the police treated the people of Nepal. You know, this is very significant for me. I mean, had they tried to, you know, pacify the situation, take control of the situation, had a dialogue, then probably the next day, that is yesterday, would not have been this bad as we saw. Because, I mean, there were clear reports that after the firing started by the police, and I've seen such videos as well, police was like berserk. It was going into hospitals, assaulting people, terrorizing the, you know, general people, women, children. 12-year-old kid was killed. You know, I mean, imagine youngsters were fired indiscriminately. There were videos where you know, some of these youngsters who were going towards the parliament, they were raising their hands and they were clapping as if they have got the success of the revolt. And the moment they reached close, the police indiscriminately started firing. So, you know, and even after late afternoon, you know, we saw that you know, the police was going you know, going and finding all the attackers and the people who were engaged in these protests. They were going into their homes, they were going into every place that they could find, you know, terrorizing every individual. So, you know, this literally boiled the sentiments of others as well, which was not required, which was, I mean, not conducive. I mean, the protest actually started on a very peaceful note. The youth and the, you know, Gen Z were, of course, marching on the streets, but they were not armed in any sense. There were no kinds of literal, what should I say, you know, bombing or anything that they were doing from their side. So there were youngsters, there were school children, there were all kinds of people, and this is not the first time see protests are happening in Nepal. You see,
अभी 2 महीने पहले
just
प्रोटेस्ट हुए थे, you and I spoke about them.
yes, we spoke about that the monarchy thing when King Gyanendra made a speech, and you know, he called for a rally. And beyond that also, I mean, the ones we have seen on the large scale on the media is one thing. Beyond that also, you know, Madhesis have organized in Kathmandu large scale protests, which are not widely reported. People have joined that. There were peaceful, you know, protests. So protest is a part and parcel of Nepal's life. You see, the civil society in Nepal is very active, and they do come very democratically. They come and raise their issues, and you know, initially you would have seen there was a lot of narebazi and sloganeering. You know, there were kinds of musical slogans that were created by the youngsters. So it would not have gone out of control had the police and the administration really dealt in a proper manner, started a dialogue, controlled in a what more humane manner, I would say, things would not have gone that bad.
मैम आयु आपको 100% सर्टेन है कि पुलिस ने वहां फायरिंग करी है? बिकॉज जिस तरह के एलिमेंट्स हमने देखे, जो पीपल हु वर कैरिंग वेपन्स, दे डिडंट लुक लाइक द पुलिस. इनके पास ऑटोमेटिक वेपन्स थे. सम ऑफ देम, आई मीन, डिडंट लुक, क्या बोलते हैं ना, द राइट काइंड ऑफ पीपल. तो
Yesterday, yes, some of these
हाँ,
reports came out,
कल
but
बहुत
see
सारे
till yes. Hmm,
ऐसे लोग दिखे
hmm.
who
बट
were.
सी कल तक तो सिचुएशन बहुत डिफरेंट हो गया ना. कल तक ये हो चुका कि बहुत सारे प्रोटेस्टर्स ने पुलिस स्टेशंस पे अटैक कर दिए, उनके वेपन्स पीपल हैव stolen and taken away, and you have seen many of these, I mean, many number of police stations have been barged by the protesters. They have taken over control of the arms and ammunitions that was there in the police stations, and of course all kinds of, as I said, all kinds of elements went into it. So I mean, the initial call of what started as a Gen Z movement was not just restricted to the Gen Z movement. So what I'm saying is there are other elements, other opportunist forces, other opposition elements. They got into this and tried to create ruckus so that things would have gone beyond control. One more thing which I really wanted to point out is I do see certain elements in this whole chaos of 2 days who were not actually, uh, probably they were not the hardcore, nationalist of Nepal. I mean, Nepalese, as I see, love their country, love their land. They raise their flag in a very, very respected manner. So, but you see, in these 2 days, there were people who went into the parliament, uh, lowered down the flag, Nepalese flag. Some of them, as we know, the buildings of the parliament and the prime minister's house have been, put on fire. I mean, if I see the normal Nepalese and the youngsters as well, the Gen Z that we call as, they would not engage in this kind of uh, anti Nepal, so to say, kind of an action. Like हमारे इंडिया के साथ अगर कंपेयर करें तो we saw elements who were like during the farmers protest, जब हम लोगों का वो हुआ था कि रेड फोर्ट पे जाके खालिस्तान का झंडा लटका दिया. See, so these are not the people who would love their country. So in Nepal also something similar happened, where I see the elements who are not patriotic to their country. They are not the ones who love their country, and these are the elements who entered into this mass mobilization of the people to take advantage of the situation and create more chaos.
मैम, जो, आई मीन, मेरे को लगा था ऑनेस्टली व्हेन आई सॉ दिस, मैंने बोला अच्छा ठीक है, किंग ज्ञानेंद्र विल मेक अ एंट्री कहीं पे. ही
Hmm.
विल से
Hmm.
समथिंग, ही विल डू समथिंग, कुछ करेंगे, ही विल कम इन
Hmm.
फ्रंट, ही विल लीड द पीपल. ही
Hmm.
डिडंट. हाउ डज, आई मीन, एंड जो मैं अभी इस टाइम पे, आई मीन, आई एम लुकिंग एट नेपाली सोशल मीडिया एंड लॉट ऑफ अदर थिंग्स, दे आर नॉट हैप्पी अबाउट दैट. एंड जो जेन जी है उससे जो पूछ रहे हैं कि भाई किंग वापस आना चाहिए, दे ऑल सेइंग नो. उसका क्या काम है यहाँ
Hmm.
पर? था कहाँ वो?
Hmm. Hmm.
So has he lost an opportunity?
See, before this movement started, Gyanendra did make a speech. He did try to talk about the same, stuff about Hinduism, the bringing back, the monarchy. We need nationalist sentiments and all of that. And even after the, protest, we saw when the resignation started to come in, the RPP, that's Rashtriya Prajatantra Party people, have also withdrawn their support from the government, right, from the coalition. So um, of course that those forces are still there. They may not have come out and literally said something, but you see the situation now is very, very special, because one, it is not a president's rule, it's not a president's created emergency, because the president himself resigned and moved out. the entire government, is out. They have resigned. The prime minister has resigned. The president has resigned. It is not the coup of the army. The army has not, taken over to control everything in the government. But army is forced to be taking care of the law and order, which is basically the thing of the police. I mean, the police should maintain the law and order. But here, because the government has crashed, there is no president who could have declared emergency or president rule in the state. The army is forced to come on the streets to maintain the law and order and to protect the state assets, right? Now, this is a very strange situation in a country. I mean, none of the countries ever had that, and of course democracies never had that. And now who will form the government also depends, because even if the Gen Zs on the social media are demanding, some of them of course are demanding Balen Shah to come and take over the prime minister, Balen Shah alone cannot make the entire cabinet, right? He alone because he's an independent candidate and he's not even a member of the parliament, right? Even if he takes up as the prime minister position, he will not be the one who can create an entire government in power, right? He would need the support of other people. And second thing is, of course, Ravi Lamichhane has been, released from the prison by the protesters. So many of the protesters are also supporting Ravi Lamichhane, who is again a supporter of the RPP, right? So there is a consensus between them. So they do stand a chance of, coming back to power, because in any case, as I said, even if, I mean, of course, I don't see that, but even if 1% we accept that Balen Shah will become the prime minister, he would need the support of certain forces, certain, parties. And definitely the UML party as well as the Congress party seems to be out of the game, right? Because, of course, I mean, apart from Oli being the prime minister who has been attacked and his administration has been attacked, the former, PM and the current coalition partner Diobaji has been attacked, and his wife, who's a foreign minister, has been attacked, right? So we do not see these people coming into power, and of course Prachanda ji also not coming into power, because there is a negative sentiment against all of these three leaders mainly, who had been playing this revolving chair game, as we said earlier, and his house has also been attacked. So when these three main parties, I mean, are not there in the mainstream as a interim government, we definitely need other leaders and other political people. And the movement itself was not led by any political leader or any other leader, right? So definitely, as you just questioned me, whether Gyanendra ji still has a chance, yes, he still has a chance. He has still not lost the opportunity. It all depends upon how he comes out and appeals the people. He has not been attacked. Nobody actually talked about the king being somewhere wrong and criticizing the king. There were no slogans of that sort that we heard or we know about, and nobody was criticizing Hindu Rashtra per se. The only criticism was about corruption, about lack of transparency, nepotism, and of course the ban on social media and things like that, right? So of course the Hindu Rashtra supporters as well as the monarchs still have a chance to come and appeal the masses. It all depends how these leaders appeal the masses and how the masses react to them, whether they welcome them or not. And still there are other young generation leaders who would have chance, whether they are in the Congress party or any other party, not of course the UML I don't see, but at least in the Congress party, who's more secular, some of the leaders may have certain chance to come up and talk about the grievances and take some kind of create some kind of an understanding with the people. But as I said, it is a very typical situation where the movement is not led by any leader. There is no one leader who's a representative, and the government has literally collapsed without creating an emergency or any law and order situation, which was in control of some leaders who are existing in the political spectrum.
Leader to hai, ma'am, that Hina Nepal is there. Hima Nepal. Shailesh Gurung is led the entire
Yes,
thing.
so no, there are small groups. There's not one person who's led the entire
Pura,
mobilization. There are
pura
these,
ऐसे ही है, ma'am.
yeah.
He was the guy who announced the protests.
Yes, some of them are there. At least I found three, groups: the Hami Nepal, Gen Z, and how to create desi, something like that. These are two, three groups, and some other content creators who are the front face, but they are not the political leaders who would be coming into the government. You see, I mean, I do not see them taking over any cabinet positions or any other positions in the in the government. So as I say, it's a very typical situation in Nepal, and the army cannot run. It is not going to be an army led, or the army chief running as the interim government. That cannot happen. So either the after the discussions with the stakeholders, they will have to call for general elections, very uh, you know early elections, I would say, or temporarily talk with all the stakeholders, including those representatives of the Gen Z, to find a mediating point for interim government to be formed temporarily.
Ma'am, but interim government, you burnt your parliament. आपने अपने
Yeah.
प्राइम मिनिस्टर ये वो सब कुछ जला दिया. आपने अपना सुप्रीम कोर्ट जला दिया. आपने अपने ऑफिसेज जला दिए. आपने अपने जाके बैंक्स जला दिए. थैंकफुली नेशनल नेशनल डेटा सेंटर को नहीं जलाया इन लोगों ने अभी तक जाके. I don't know what will happen tonight because last night was also pretty nasty.
Yes.
What do they expect to do with this? I mean, you burnt everything that is the structure of power in your country. आपने जितनी आपकी एस्टैब्लिशमेंट थी सबको जला के राख कर दिया. पूरे पेपर्स जल गए आपके. आपके सर्वर्स जल गए. आपका डेटा गया. आपका सिटीजनशिप डेटा आपके पास है. उसको लेके बैठे रहो, ठीक है, बट यू हैव नथिंग. योर सीट
So
ऑफ पावर इज बर्न्ट. हाउ डू यू
so
स्टार्ट? I mean, this is
yeah, so some of the Gen Z groups have come out and started to say that this kind of violence is not what they wanted. They are not the part of it, and they are also trying to. Some of them have started to collect the garbage and clean. There's a clean campaign which has started. All these things. Again, some of the other NGOs have now taken over and talked about it. So as I said, it is not the Gen Z who wanted this kind of violence to this extent. So things went out of control. As I said, this was not the intention. This was not the target. This was not how they perceived as an objective. The objective was to put a pressure on this government to resign, to overthrow this government, because people have lost faith in the government. Corruption was at peak. Unemployment is hovering around more than 10%, right? In the
has
and the
to be
economy
more,
is in,
man.
yeah, it's more than 10%, something around 11 or so. And it was in fact 11 point something last year. This year is again 10 plus. So and the economy is in doldrum. After the COVID, it has not revived well. But you see, is it so? My question to the Nepalese again comes back to the same stuff. What is that you want to achieve by this kind of massive destruction? Because there are billions of rupees that has gone into, that has gone waste. You are not a very rich country. Okay, you need this money now. What you're doing is you are wasting your resources, and to rebuild those resources you will need again a lot of money. So I think it's a big dent on the financial position of Nepal. It's a big dent on the structure. That was the systemic structure of Nepal. And I think the people actually wanted a change from the way things were governed in Nepal. So basically, it was the governance as an issue, it was the high level of corruption as an issue, and the these old leaders playing as the revolving chair even after the general elections, which made the public very upset about how things are running. And the the amassing of money by few people. You see, 1% of the population in Nepal has become very, very rich or very wealthy. So that discontent is on the streets. So now it is to stabilize Nepal first, and then to reconstruct and look ahead of what can be done.
Ma'am, look what's happening right now. The people that are meeting the army is all Hami Nepal people. ठीक है?
Yes,
Shailesh, Gurung
yes,
and all these people.
yes.
And I'm on their Discord server, by the way. ठीक
Hmm,
है? I've been on their Discord server since yesterday.
hmm,
Okay? I can read and see what they're talking about. सब कुछ मेरे को पता चल रहा है.
hmm,
Okay? They are frustrated that they have no leader. इनके पास कुछ मतलब वो अब वो नो लीडर उसमें से एक दो ये जो निकले हैं बाहर, they are saying कि भाई
hmm,
तुम क्यों जा रहे हो? And what
hmm,
discussions are happening? क्लोज्ड डोर पे क्यों कर रहे हो? See, this is I mean लोगों ने कर तो दिया. They probably wanted to get Oli's resignation.
hmm.
They've broken the entire government, and I don't know
Yeah.
whether that. I don't know that. I mean, they probably wanted a Sheikh Hasina sort of a thing. जहाँ पर शेख हसीना और उसके मिनिस्टर्स निकले, दूसरे मिनिस्टर आए, they just go sit down in the same offices, same bureaucrats, and they start. यहाँ तो तुमने सब कुछ ही तोड़ दिया.
Hmm.
Now, how do you? I mean, this is, and I can see the disconnect within the people in the server
Hmm.
itself. What people are saying कि भाई ये क्या हो रहा है?
So, as I said, it is not that every youngster in Nepal wanted this as an outcome, not the youngsters who wanted this kind of violence. So, other elements who joined this took an advantage and went overboard, you see. And now, because they have gone overboard, it is a complete destruction of the structure of government as well as the structure of governance, right?
Absolutely. Mm.
So I think it would be a very tough task for the army and the other stakeholders to renegotiate and rebuild everything, um, because now there are multiple voices which are active in Nepal. As you are saying, Hami Nepal is one force, right? But Hami Nepal is not the decisive force. It cannot individually represent all the youngsters and decide this is what I want. That is why I said either the army will have to call for early elections by forming a temporary interim government, or let things settle down and continue as it is for another 4 5 days, and then put some pieces for the basic working of the government. So it's a very tough
Very
task
tough.
for the army, yeah, for the
Very, very
army
tough.
to
Absolutely.
now, I mean, because there are now I mean, already Nepal had thousands of political parties, right? Now you have hundred thousands of voices which represent in different directions, you know, and you have to find a consensus among all of them. So it is basically a complete destruction of the democratic structure that was erected after 2008. That is why I feel that King Gyanendra does have an opportunity where he can be a voice to come out and say that, okay, even if temporarily, I can lead and let the dust settle down, and then renegotiate things.
I mean, it's really crazy, ma'am. So, what is the Indian outlook? यहाँ पर कल Prime Minister Modi did a cabinet committee on security meeting, and then he put out that message that it's very heart wrenching to see
Yeah.
what we see. Message was बहुत neutral सा message था. There was nothing here and there about it. He
Hmm.
put across a feeling कि भाई he just all I'm saying is guys calm down, don't do this, ये
Hmm.
मत करो, जो भी
Absolutely.
कर रहा है मत करो
Absolutely.
ये सब, प्लीज
Hmm.
काम डाउन. तो एक ग्रैंडफादर फिगर टाइप का उन्होंने एक मैसेज भेजा है कि यार डोंट डू दिस, करो आप प्लीज
Hmm.
ठंडा हो जाओ. अभी कितना रेजोनेंस है बिकॉज का देयर इज बीन अ कंप्लीट एंटी इंडिया गेम व्हिच हैज बीन प्लेइंग इन नेपाल फॉर अ लॉन्ग टाइम नाउ. ठीक है, जब से चाइना घुसा है वहां पर,
Hmm.
TikTok, China, this whole thing has created a lot of tamasha. How do
Hmm.
you how do you kind of see this?
So, of course, it is a very concerned situation for India, not just because of its security, at the borders is at stake, but also because a very close ally and a neighbor, um, whom we feel as one, family, an extended family, is, in doldrums, is threatened by forces we are not certain, and we don't know what is happening, right? So I think there are a few things which India should really do and look into. First of all, of course, take control of the border security, right? So that uh, unethical, immoral, and other kinds of elements do not enter into India and create the same kind of chaos in India. That is first, and protecting your border. Second thing is, I think the embassy of India in Nepal can do a lot of work, starting from because there are no anti-India sentiments floated during this mobilization. So the embassy of India can do two three things out there. First of all, it can call for all the stakeholders to have a discussion, including with the army, to find out a resolution which is amicable and consensual, or a broader consensus among the parties. Okay. Two, it can provide financial and material support to the Nepalese for the rebuilding and reconstruction work, because as you rightly mentioned, there is a huge destruction of the assets, including the parliament, the Supreme Court, and all of that. And I think India should take an initiative and responsibility so that it can provide all the material and physical but financial help, so that reconstruction can begin in Nepal. Three, I think Nepal the embassy of India can provide, it can open certain, centers of counseling for psychological and moral support of the people of Nepal, especially because I have seen some of the videos where there are not just Indians but even foreigners and Nepalese who are very terrorized of the situation. Some of them even talking, because many people have, the jails have been broken, so many of the criminals are out open in the state, and the women are fearing about the rapists, the murderers who are out in the street now. Okay, so there is this sense of fear and anxiety among the people. So I think the embassy should open centers across Nepal where psychological and moral support can be provided. And even if because as of now the airport is closed, so all support to travel can be provided. Some who are Indians can be brought back, some who can who wants to go out of Nepal, the foreign tourist can also be provided. And the Nepalese who think they want to contribute greatly can be supported through civil organizations. So NGOs can be funded in Nepal. I think these are the major things that Indian government can do. And I hope the Indian government takes a proactive approach, because it is our people, it is our extended family which is at this odd situation. And we should not just neglect whatever is happening in Nepal and say, okay, this is not our duty, this is not our obligation, this is not our responsibility. It's a very right opportunity for India to create a very positive vibe among the Nepalese, and we should take a very proactive step towards supporting all the stakeholders in Nepal.
Ma'am, if this is a geopolitical event जो अमेरिका की तरफ से कराया गया है, which is what personally I believe,
Yes.
they would have some control over this situation. The end game क्या हो सकता है उसका? What do you think they wanted?
See, as we have been discussing on your channel quite often about, and I've been telling to many Nepalese for long, there is going to be and there is a proxy war of US and China being played in Nepal. India has no role in there, because the US wants to take its own control. US wants to control the Tibetans in Nepal. US wants to control the democratic system of Nepal. US wants to control how the regime functions in Nepal, while the Chinese are funding hugely to control the Tibetans, to control Nepal, to join its own global security initiative. We saw that the Chinese publicly stated that Nepal has already become a part of the GSI, while the Nepalese were shocked because officially they had no intimation that the Nepalese government has signed that. And China wants to rope in Nepal for the quadrilateral security alliance, that is Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nepal, and Bangladesh, right? So there is this tussle which is happening between US, maintaining its own control and hegemony, pulling the Nepalese through MCC and through other Indo-Pacific thing to join the Indo-Pacific and be a alliance partner of the Western-led US or US-led Western bloc, and the Chinese want its own, cake because the neighbor. It supports, Nepal greatly, funding almost 35 billion for the hospitals, for the BRI projects, for even talking about the railways and things like that, right? So this kind of a proxy war is very, very, um, you know, very difficult situation for Nepalese to deal. They will have to choose which block they need to rely on. Okay, and as you rightly said, probably there is a greater hand of the US forces in entire South Asia and now in Nepal. Right now, I think India, should take a lead and tell both of these parties, both of these forces, that we will not allow this to happen in Nepal. Okay, Nepal is not just our backyard or is just a neighbor. It is a part and parcel of our extended community, and we will not let other forces to destroy Nepal as it is happening. And so India can really push away this narrative of Nepal falling into prey as a proxy, proxy war between these two countries. And I have been always telling that this is what is going to happen in the future, and we see that happening now, where Chinese were there. A US delegation just went to Nepal, and you see these things happening. You see, even if they're not clear evidences, I think US would want a stronger democratic system, which is not communist, inclined government to come to power. That is what, because if it is the government which is the US government which is behind all of this action, this is what the US would want to do, because as of now we see majority of inclination toward the communists. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. So basically, the communists and Maoists are done in Nepal. Is there any future for them?
I don't say that they're done, because see, even if there are few leaders who have been targeted, the entire entity of communist thinking among the masses have not been destroyed. So there are many supporters of UML and Maoist who still exist in Nepal, and they are in a mainstream, right? So even if today the elections take place and there are certain communist leaders who stand up, they will again win. I do not see that the entire communist ideology has been shattered by this kind of a movement. It is only that few leaders have been found extremely corrupt, and their ideology has not been supported by the people, or the youngsters are fed up with the same old generation leaders coming to power off and on. Had they reformed within their own parties and let young leaders come to to the forefront, including the Nepal Congress, if they would have allowed youngsters to come as the front runner, at the leadership position, things would not have gone down this way. So still it is not the end of communism in Nepal.
That's the challenge. So that means the chaos continues.
The chaos will continue as long as and so I said, I mean, there are chances of other forces to come into foreplay, including the Hindu Rashtra forces, who could mobilize the people and say the communists made false promises to you and did not deliver. Because one of the things which Oliji kept on saying was Samriddh Nepal, Sukhi Nepali. But you see there is no Samridh Nepal today, and Nepalis are how much sukhi we can see today. You see, so they are all crying. That's why they are on the streets and they're burning, right? So what any other government or any other leader who wants to come has to first think about whether they can bring in development for Nepal. Many of them even calling like we want a leader like Prime Minister Modi, right? Basically, who looks for the economic development and welfare of the people, and a leader who would think about the welfare of the masses, you know. So the cake is distributed, even if not entirely equally, but at least in a more proportional manner.
Hmm. This is going to be quite an interesting watch. Right, ma'am, let's get into some audience questions. Thank you so much for that. Guys, as I had promised everybody, रात को 10 बजे I've been able to find whatever US connection जो मैं मेरे को मिला है वो मैं आपके सामने रखूंगा. I will give details as to कैसा है. My main purpose is one to study क्योंकि ये regime change operations मेरा एक I've been kind of studying them pretty well. And मेरे को एक और वो दिखता है कि we need to also learn क्योंकि भारत के अंदर भी ये काफी कोशिश है इनकी. So we need to also learn what is happening and so जो मेरे पास collection मैंने करी है पिछले 1-2 दिन से, I will share that with you. So please like, subscribe and share this with your friends and families. And guys, if you can, please do contribute towards the channel. QR code, PayPal, Super Sticker, Super Chats is the way to go. Okay, let's take questions. सबसे पहले one second. Here we go. Thank you so much, HRG, for becoming a member. Madhukarji says, coincidence, Sri Lankan, Bangladeshi and Nepali heads of state visited China, first came back, and within a week, civil unrest was waiting for them. Your thoughts?
No, I don't think it is the Chinese who wanted a civil unrest. It is not in the Chinese
No,
interest to have.
no. Aapne misunderstand kar diya. He's
Sorry, what
saying
did they say?
they were seen with the Chinese, so the Americans created this in their country within a short time of them coming back from China.
No, because see, these kind of visits are quite happening, and it's not the first time Prachanda went to China and he signed many deals, right? And the BRI was signed. Why didn't the Americans do that? It is not that the Americans did just because they went to China. It is about, as I said, how the Chinese are now. The Chinese openly stated about the GSI, which really created tension, and the Americans were waiting for this, this spark, and the spark was the ban on the social media. The moment the spark happened, it is not the first time, as I said, the protests were happening. It is the spark which was not there, and once the spark was there, the mobilization was quite easy for youngsters to come and be in the school dress and all that kind of stuff, that went. So the Americans really waited for what could ignite such kind of a mobilization, not a visit to China.
Rashmiji says, why is that the situation went beyond sacking of the ruling government? Why was the previous PM's wife burnt? Are jihadis from Pakistan involved?
So as I said, I'm very sure that there were elements who are not patriotic. They are not pro-Nepal. They want to see the destruction of Nepal in whatever way it is possible. And there were elements who were unhappy with everything that was happening in Nepal. So there were elements who are, we call them as extremist forces, which really clubbed into this movement, and then you see the actions that are happening. So it is not I cannot imagine a 14 or a 18-year-old or a 12-year-old kid to actually go and burn the parliament. They would not do it. Nepalese in general also, as I understand, even if you see their videos or whatever, even if they're critical about the corruption, they're critical about a political leader, they are not against Nepal. They're patriotic. They're very highly nationalists. You see, they may criticize you for certain things. If you say anything against Nepal, I was, in one of my tweets, the Nepalese started to, send me so many, messages about how shameless you are. You're talking about all of this and all of that kind of stuff. So at the core, the youngsters are instilled with love for their own country. The things that have gone out of control, as I said, are the elements who are extremist forces who wants to see a destruction of Nepal, and they wanted to take an advantage of this chaos. And what is what they took as an advantage.
प्रॉब्लम जी थैंक यू कहते हैं मोदी एंड ट्रम्प मिले हुए हैं दोनों मिलके चाइना को खोखला कर रहे हैं कुछ मंथ्स के बाद दोनों फिर गले मिलेंगे बोथ आर एंटी जिहादी
Modi and who?
ट्रम्प
Trump. Modi and Trump mile hue hain. I mean, see, we are already having our own set of problems with the US, especially related to the tariff thing. And I think we know how to deal at the government to government level, and we are negotiating with them. Today also, Trump gave a new statement. He tweeted, we are negotiating, and that things might go in a positive direction. So it's a different thing. We do not negotiate with Trump as to how we need to destroy Nepal. As I said, Nepal is something. हमारा रोटी बेटी का रिलेशन है, हमारा कल्चरल एफिनिटीज हैं, हमारी हिस्टोरिकल बॉन्डिंग है. We are not the one who would want to see a destruction of a neighbor with whom we have very close ties. I mean, if this is the way somebody wants to put in, तो कल को वो बोलेंगे बांग्लादेश में भी इंडिया और यूएस ने मिलके कराया, श्रीलंका में भी इंडिया और यूएस ने मिलके कराया. Why would we want fire in our neighborhood that can always spread within our own country?
That is there, ma'am.
I don't think that could be the sense.
Is it correct to say that these protests were hijacked or semi-hijacked? I would say completely hijacked.
Completely hijacked. Absolutely.
Thought provocator ji, thank you. Can CCP be overthrown? They also have a she there. Gen C there.
Yeah, but I mean, they have a different kind of a control and system mechanism.
Again,
It's
China is a very large country with different. See,
Yes.
that's the whole thing. एक singular country with a unison sort of an issues उसमें कर सकते हो आप. बड़े countries में करना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है ये. On next steps, they started a meeting on Discord. I'm seeing that the people are speaking in US style, not Nepali. That's yes. I'm also seeing that.
Agree.
Rashmiji says, will Pakistan take over Nepal with USA's help? But ma'am, I want to know, this question actually triggered the question in my mind. How deep is ISI infiltrated into Pakistan, into Nepal?
Very deep.
Into the system or into the civil society?
Both. There are political parties who have united. They are jihadis supporters. They are into the political.
The Hotel Kathmandu and the, what is that? Jamaat-e-Kashmir. These two are the places, no?
Yes, and in the political system, in the government structure, there are proteges of Pakistan apart from the civil society actors. So there are religious groups. Yeah, there are religious groups, there are political groups, and there are also non-governmental groups.
Yeah, that's the danger.
Yes.
Gen Z protest happened in India. Nitishji, thank you so much. Anna Hazare and uprooted a dynastic politics of 15 years. Modi's is stand on will of people, not by state power. That's true. And you also say, Nitishji, Deep State tried it in 2020 CAA protest, but counter-polarization of Hindus led to riots. 10,000 mob can only stop by a counter mob of 100,000 supporters. Well, that's not just the only one, sir. आप start करिए 2015 से. रोहित वर्मुला, कागज नहीं दिखाएंगे, award walks, उसके बाद
so many. I mean,
उसके बाद land acquisition, फिर रफाइल, फिर शुरू हुआ आपका CAA, farmers 2, Manipur. We can't forget Manipur. Manipur was a complete game. So we've had multiple of them.
And multiple.
Yeah.
But as you said, I mean, it's a large country. You cannot, mobilize the entire 1.4 billion people to go against, the government and destroy. And otherwise, also our security establishment is so strong. Nobody can just go into the parliament house and burn. I mean, the system of Nepal was different. You can easily go and meet a leader.
एक है मैम,
There
वन
is
थिंग
a
आई रियली रियलाइज वन थिंग दैट जिस तरह से हमारे देश में प्रोटेस्ट हैंडल करे गए,
hmm,
Modi ji took a very soft stand because he probably knew much more than what we do.
hmm,
अगर वो जो फार्मर्स के टाइम पे गोली चल जाती,
yes, yes. And that is why I said in Nepal, if they would have handled it in a more matured and humane manner, things would not have gone down to what they went to the next day. I mean, they shouldn't have fired. People should have controlled,
well, the IG says that we've not fired, so it's very
So they should have made I mean, and they knew there was the protests were going to happen. So they should have created security provisions for not letting other elements, have arms and ammunition and fire.
mm, mm, that's true.
If we
You know, a lot
if
of
we agree by this wording, yeah.
ma'am, could we have stopped it? Let me ask you this.
We means who?
We would have known what's happening. Could we have stopped it?
No,
No chance,
we
right?
couldn't have. No,
People
because
don't realize
it's
how powerful the deep state is. They don't realize. You'll probably stop this
yes,
one. 3 days later, there'll be something else. So
absolutely, and we have seen that. I mean, Durga Prasad's movement, was also a very large scale movement. You see,
yeah.
even if we, people were all supporting. So I mean, we couldn't have stopped things to happen. We could have really guided, and probably we did. We must have given them inputs about be careful about how things are happening. It is not possible that the Indian government was just here sitting and watching and had no idea about what is happening in Nepal.
आर्मी के साथ तो interactions तो होंगे. There's no question.
Absolutely. Otherwise also, with the government also.
Please look at Rabi, Suman, Balendra Shah, and Sudan Gurung. Sudan Gurung, Balendra Shah, Rabi, we've spoken. Suman Shrestha, anything, ma'am? She's that lady from Japan, na? जो Japan में वो कुछ कर रही है.
Yeah, I heard about her. But see, as I said, these individual actors cannot form a government. You see, you need a cohesive force or at least a coalition party. And these are not the actors who are in the parliament. They are not the representative in the parliament. So maybe then you will have to change the entire constitution of Nepal. I mean, constitution does not provide individual actors who are mayor or non-governmental organizations to be part of the cabinet. So how would you function?
I mean, it's yeah, that's the main thing. It's I don't know what they've thought about. किस तरह से सोचा है.
I mean, even if you're asking Balen Shah to become the prime minister, constitutionally, it is not allowed Balen Shah, who is not a member of the parliament, to become the prime minister of Nepal. So you will have to first sit down and change the constitution. That's why I said you need all the stakeholders to sit together and find a plausible solution for how you want to run the government.
Yeah,
frustrated. And that is why I think, yeah, I think elections could be one of the ways in which you can rethink about, but immediately you can't even have elections. So you will need a period of time, a temporary interim government, which army said that we will form an interim government or something like that. But who will be the actors? Who would be the leaders? Who would be the ones who would be acceptable and not lead to another chaos? That's significant.
Thank you so much, sir. He says when criminals were out, a kind of Bolshevik revolution, definitely an outsider's job. True.
Yes, that is what I've been mentioning.
Raj Guruji, thank you. One, apart from removing Oli, what was the motive of the protesters? I think we've answered that. Second, you're saying, is the EU trade deal possible without ending the Ukraine war? Sir, with Trump being there, anything is possible.
I think that's a different question altogether, not relevant to this discussion.
All intellectuals of Nepal, where are they? Why is there a void in the youth and governance so big? Nobody's interested there. That's the big problem.
See, there is a disillusionment in Nepal for a long period of time. The knowledgeable people are also not heard. The Gen Z has a different way of looking at things. They want material life. They want peace and stability. They want enjoyment. You see, for them, intellectual discussions are not a part of the running of the government. And they see corruption as a very negative thing that has influenced the society, and they're not able to get jobs because of that. There's high level of poverty because of that. The infrastructure is not very good. They are unhappy about that. And many of them actually went abroad and have seen, you see, especially there are a class of people who came back after the corona thing. And once they came back, they realized that remittances are not the way the country can function. They need to have their own resources, create resources, or develop the resources which can make them self-sufficient and sustain the economy. So that kind of negativity is there among the youngsters.
Frustrated Commonergy, once again, thank you. Riots are not by counter-Hindus, they are by anti-India forces. Nepal and India must remain Hindu majority by 75%. That's true, actually. For the peace of the
Nepal,
region.
yeah.
Gopal Krishna ji कहते हैं, is there any federal structure there which, in case, can at least provide provincial governance?
So that is what the
Okay, I think
but
we...
For a second, yes, we lost the connection. So there are these, but as I said, constitutionally, you need to have an elected, prime minister who's a majority party representative. Where is he or she? That is the problem. Even we don't have a president now. So to whom are you going to give this? And president has to be, appointed first for any prime minister to be accepted. So it's a complete destruction of the structure, as I said.
Thought provocator ji, thank you. Last one, ma'am. Can't this happen in the US? More guns than toys.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to
guns
say
are
anything. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the time and for your insights. Always a pleasure आपसे interact करके. And इसके ऊपर नजर तो बना के रखनी पड़ेगी because this is something very close to India and very dangerous for India as well.
Absolutely,
So thank you so much. Always.
Thank you and namaskar. And thank you to your viewers. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.